There are fresh calls for an independent review process into controversial incidents involving the New South Wales Police. They've been prompted by the recent decision to recommend charges against some of the officers involved in the death of Brazilian student Roberto Curti. His death is just one of a number of cases in which the police version of events has been challenged by subsequent inquiries.
He's keen, brown curly hair, brown complexion.
It's a case that continues to haunt the New South Wales police force, the death of Brazilian student Roberto Curti, delivering a never-ending source of negative headlines. The drug-affected student died after being repeatedly tasered and sprayed with capsicum, the coroner ruling that some of the arresting officers used excessive force and subsequently gave untruthful accounts of what happened.
And so once you've taser, and then you fired the shot? Yep. Okay.
For the family of Adam Salter, the Curti case has a familiar ring to it. Their mentally ill son was shot and killed at his home in 2009. The coroner in that case finding the police version of events a disgrace. The Salter family, fearing consequences, chose not to be interviewed for this story, but they agree with MPs who are calling for a radical overhaul of the way critical incidents involving the police are investigated.
When you have someone killed as a result of police operations or in the course of police operations, where you have serious violence being instigated against someone in the course of police operations, that should immediately trigger a genuinely independent investigation by a statutorily independent body. We can't have police investigating police in those instances.
The majority of critical incidents involving the police are investigated only by the police, and in most instances no further action is taken. But the most controversial come under the scrutiny of one or other of a number of oversight bodies, including the Ombudsman, the Coroner and the Police Integrity Commission, on occasions by all three, but often only when the matter is referred to them, sometimes weeks or months after the event.
We need independent officers taking those first statements, being there in what's called the golden hour after a critical incident occurs.
Calls for one independent body with investigative powers have been made frequently over the years by civil liberties lawyers, but the proposal now has some significant backers. The former long-running Director of Public Prosecutions in New South Wales telling SBS it's a no-brainer.
What police have to understand, and what the critics of police have got to understand, is it's not against the law to be an arsehole.
Former New South Wales detective Michael Kennedy says it's not oversight that is the problem, but the entire model of policing. He says in the aftermath of the Wood Royal Commission into police corruption, a productivity model was introduced, linking budgets to the number of arrests, creating little incentive for the police to de-escalate situations.
That interaction that police used to have and the dialogue and the exchange has been replaced now with a more violent ending. And that's only been introduced the last 20 years. And I think if you're using capsicum spray and tasers in order to bring to an end a conflict, every now and again you're going to have a very unhappy ending.
The New South Wales Police and the Police Minister turned down our request for an interview for this story. The Police Minister's spokesman bristling at the mere suggestion that the system may be in need of reform. But if the gay community gets its way, the issue will be debated by the New South Wales Parliament. In the aftermath of a Mardi Gras that saw more than 100 complaints against the police, the New South Wales Gay and Lesbian Rights Lobby is attempting to get the 50,000 signatures necessary to force a debate on the issue in Parliament.
A body which investigates police complaints, which isn't the police themselves, exists in other jurisdictions around the world. There are well-functioning models in Canada, in the UK and New Zealand. It provides accountability and transparency and removes any hint of a conflict of interest, and I think it's important that a similar model be adopted in New South Wales.